the Bain Free Radio Hour.
Today on the Bain Free Radio Hour, Griffin Barber speaks with author Marisa Wolf about her latest novel, a brand new and intense fantasy set in a fallen world, A Plague of Magic. And we continue to bring you Mark Van Name's John and Lobo novel, One Jump Ahead. Hi there, I'm Griffin Barber, your host for today's edition of the Bain Free Radio Hour. Hello and welcome, Marisa.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Marisa Wolf is here with us today to talk about her second Bain novel, A Plague of Magic. It's her first in another new series from Marisa, and we are very excited to have it for you. But first, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to write this?
Yeah. Yes. So I write science fiction and fantasy that ends in hope. I make no promises about what happens along the way to get to that ending. So that is what I write. And I wrote this for a bunch of reasons. One, because I've mostly written science fiction in my career, and I love it. I'm a second generation nerd, but I also really, really love fantasy. And when I had the opportunity to write a fantasy novel, I jumped on it. And as we'll probably talk about throughout this podcast, it didn't go exactly the way I planned it.
So when you say second generation,
Yeah.
Star Trek or Star Wars or Heinlein, or what are we talking about?
Yes. So the answer is yes. My dad watched the first Star Wars movie 2 years before I was born and was already hooked, we'll say. And he had been a Star Trek fan since, original series. And so apparently when I was crying too much, the only things that would make me stop were putting on Captain Kirk or taking me for a drive. And that was it. I have slightly more coping mechanisms now, but not many. And that was it.
Way
So
fewer things are making you cry too.
Yep. So dad was mostly Star Trek, Star Wars, and comics. And then because most of the books he had were the extended universe stuff for both universes. And then I branched out from there. That was raised correctly.
So usually the hardest question is first. I don't know, that might have been telling us your ancestry might have been
Right.
your nerdcestry.
Nerds is true. Nice.
Might have been harder question. But what is the coolest aspect of A Plague of Magic for you?
Oh, the coolest aspect, besides the city itself, which I am obsessed with, I would actually say is the tiny angry dragon. He is my favorite part. I love him very, very much.
So did you stumble on that, or were you just like, I'm gonna have to have this little angry dragon in it?
So it was one of the first things that was clear to me when I was thinking about this book was that there was a treasure, and with the treasure was a very tiny dragon. And then as soon as I started thinking about him, I realized he was very angry. So those were very key pieces of his personality early on. Very tiny, very angry. All the reasons why he was angry and tiny came later throughout the book. As I was getting into it, and I was like, well, of course he's cranky. I would be cranky too. How dare? But yeah, so I knew who he was right away. And then all the reasons why he is who he is kind of came along the way.
He's quite a fun character, and the image of him swimming in the horde is something that sticks with me. And
Little Scrooge McDuck, like,
yeah,
this is my treasure.
and
Yeah.
it's also, I mean, no spoilers because it's on the cover, really.
Yeah, he's there. Yeah. Yeah, he is very special. Oh man, I wanted to tell you guys something about him. Hopefully I'll remember before the end. Uh, yeah, you don't get to know now because I don't remember. So there you go.
Is it something about his size? Is he going to grow
Maybe.
up? Is he a youngin?
Oh, that's for reading.
Yeah.
I will tell you, he is the way he is purposefully. And I don't just mean that as an author. I mean that in character. He is the way he is because of circumstances, some of which you'll probably figure out as you read. Others you might have to wait for a future book.
Yeah, there's an internet meme out there that really, really shows it for me, what's going on there.
Oh yeah.
It involves
Oh,
it involves a cat in a carport.
uh-huh. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, that's fun.
So, uh, That's
Mhm.
really cool. I like the fact that he's got furthermore, he's got additional roles to play as we go forward, hopefully with the series, and
It does.
get into that later on as well. Uh,
Yeah.
A Plague of Magic centers on some underprivileged youth and their found family. Tell
Mhm.
us, if you would, a little bit about why those characters in that circumstance, why Seema and the rest of her crew
Her crew.
in that circumstance.
So when I first came up with the first page of the book, uh, I had Seema and I had her pretty locked down. I understood that she was really good at what she did, but trying to change it up. She was kind of aging out of being a thief. It's a game for the young. And she had made some bad choices that brought her to an unexpected situation. And I thought this was going to be a really fun, heisty novel. And then I thought, oh, well, Seema shouldn't be operating by herself. She should have a crew. And, the crew is going to help do things. And that just changed the entire tone of the story, which I didn't realize until I was several chapters in. And I was like, oh, this is not fun, heisty. This is a different kind of fantasy novel. Got it.
It's fun in a different way, but
It's
yeah,
a different kind of. I had a lot of fun. I don't know that all the characters did,
no.
but I hope readers will. So yeah, so once I realized Seema had a crew, it was actually kind of tricky, because she was so clear in my head. They all just sounded like kind of amorphous others, and they couldn't. They had to be their own people. So I got some advice from other folks and actually just wrote a bunch of little like snippets of scenes that will never see the light of day, but just to like get really
Conversations,
clear.
their voice.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay, now I got to know who.
yeah. I
Did
mean,
you talk to?
all of them. I did not realize. So Mish is the like quintessential annoying little brother, although he's barely younger than everybody else, but he's got that like, I'm gonna annoy the crap out of you energy. He was the first one I realized, like when I was writing the little things, he was just very much like poke, 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 poke. And I was like, there you are, got it. Um, Ackles, I was pretty sure it was going to be Sunshine from the beginning, and then the more I did her little snippets, the more I was like, oh, she all the way Sunshine, but also she will cut someone if she needs to, and I love that very much about her. Um, Terrio took the longest. So Gotti, I understood pretty quickly. He's like the good-natured. He's very strong. He's very sweet, and he is loyal to death. And then Terrio like locked into place last, and I was like, oh, she's not just the big sister. She's the eldest daughter. Like she is the one. I am responsible for all you yahoos. I can't let myself have any fun. Okay, I can have a little bit of fun. Okay, but I don't. That was terrible. I'm never gonna do that again. She took a little bit to get in there, and then I had to go back and rewrite that first chapter where you meet all of them,
Right.
because their dialogue was so interchangeable when I started, and so when I went back, I was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. No one's saying this. No, no. So
Neat.
yeah.
That's cool. So what I was actually asking though was
Oh, sorry. Who did I what?
who did you talk to?
Oh. I mean, so there's my usual yahoos, right? I am forever talking to Casey Azell and Melissa Olthoff, who are incredibly talented authors. I think I got that idea though from another incredibly talented author. I think it was Shami Stovall. Um, it might have been because I put it. We may or may not have a group chat with a bunch of authors, um, who are all uppity broads in science fiction and fantasy. And I think I put the question in there where I was like, you guys, I'm struggling. Like, I know it has to be this crew. I have a general sense of what they are. And like, I've tried persona sheets, not really like I did those in fan fiction, but like I tried to like sketch out things and I was like, that wasn't working. And I think it was Shami who was like, just do little like vignettes, not for the book, just for like who they are and how they know each other. And I was like, dang, that's a really good question.
And may end up being a seed for some short story or novel down the road, right?
Maybe because I was going to, so there is a free short story, y'all, on Bain.com called Undercurrents. I was going to write something different for that short story, but I was told in a unison of four people immediately who this story was going to be about. And so that was maybe three, because it was Casey, Melissa, and this Yahoo, right here, who were like, oh no, a Dagori story. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I was going to do an earlier actual heist story, but you get a mob boss instead.
Yep. No, it worked out too. Haven't read that story and quite enjoyed it.
Thanks.
Undercurrents.
Undercurrents.
Uh, so why in that particular circumstance though for them? Why was it they had to be?
Okay. So the year was 20. No, I actually don't know what the year was. So at some point several years ago, I was on a pretty tight deadline. And as my brain does when it's on a deadline, I found another shiny project. And that became this many years later. But it was in the Cheapside hoard is a real thing in our real world. It was a treasure unexpectedly found by construction workers in London. And they split it up and they went out and they had an epic night of drinking, to the point that some runner went running out of Cheapside, in the bars to find the man who founded the British Museum of Natural History, whatever it's called. Um, and he came out and started collecting all the pieces because he was like, these are culturally significant. And they were. So I went into this huge rabbit hole about this hoard and the amazingness. And then I was like, well, yeah, but what if it were cursed? But yeah, but what if it were magic? But yeah, what if it weren't in London? Because, there's a ton of fantasy Londons. I did not need a fantasy London. So I started thinking about it and I was like, okay, but who's going to walk up on this in a world where there is magic and not immediately be like, this is cursed.
Right.
I should probably be careful. And I was like, well, a group of thieves who know how to fence it and are on the brink of desperation. They're not there yet, but they're sure that their lives should be better. And here's the ticket. Why would you think? Why would you think twice? It is treasure, literally abandoned. Like, of course you're gonna take it. And then the book happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have that you're just mentioning about London. Who needs another London?
Yeah,
The has,
London's great. We
a
just don't
Plague
need
of
another
Magic
one.
has a
Yeah.
city that is quite a character on its own. Did you have a real world model? Was it London or was it something else?
It is not London. So the city in A Plague of Magic is called Broadside. And it is broadside to a harbor. And I wanted a very basic city name because I find that's what most cities that I like are. They just have very clear names like we're on a bay. Bay is here. We're on, like it's very clear. Why are we naming the city? And so I did not want it to be Fantasy London. I have loved many a Fantasy London, but I wanted it to be something different. So it's a little bit New Orleans, it's a little bit Barcelona, it's a little bit Boston, it's a little bit like every city where you can see the cultures built on top of each other, um, and kind of mashed together in different cities or quarters or parts. Um, and there's probably a little bit of arcane in it too. So the city in Arcane is probably a little bit of an influence too. Um, so yeah, it's just a mishmash. And then I really had to think like, okay, so not a spoiler. Seema thinks about this in the first chapter. This world is not Earth. This is a whole other place. We're a secondary world here. And it kind of ended 400 years ago because of magic. So magic is outlawed. So this had to be a city that could conceivably outlaw magic. So it had to be bound on all sides so that things were controllable coming in because people are sneaky. And it had to be a city that conceivably could have lived through a cataclysm, and then
Not
kind of
floating,
rebuilt.
not floating, not
Yeah.
underwater, all those.
Mm-mm. Yeah. So it's very different than the broadside of 400 years ago. Like most cities that last that long, it's very different than its original incarnation. But yeah, it came to me in pieces, and the quarters were the clearest part. I drew a very terrible map that Griffin had to see, but you guys can see a good actual map in the book.
Yeah, that was cool to be able to do that.
That was really awesome.
So, which character, including the city,
Yeah.
in A Plague of Magic, kind of surprised you?
Surprised me. Well, one is Degore. So you see him in that short story. He's only in two scenes in the book. And I expected him, he was written to be a complete throwaway, like this is just a source for Seema. And he was very clear that that was not the case. And he was almost fully formed in my head. And once again, very clear that no, we weren't done with him. So he definitely surprised me. And then the fence, Kai. Um, I knew I was gonna like
Well, you're
her.
cheating. You're gonna have two.
I did, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I could just keep talking, right?
Yep.
Good.
Just like a criminal in the underworld.
This
You're gonna, yeah.
there are no rules. Why choose?
Yep.
So Kai is the fence. And she ended up having a couple more layers than I expected her to. So there you go. To cut that one
But
short.
Dagor is particularly like those, while not present
Hmm.
in character, he
Hmm.
is ever present in a lot of the book, like in a
Yeah.
very large portion of the book, especially while she's in Broadside.
Yep.
Everything is about, there's, well, I could do this, but I'm not gonna
Not gonna. I could just
because
this
of him or
is this an
because
easy
of,
fix? No.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
She
and that's one of the cooler things about a powerful figure in any book is that if they don't have to be on scene to
hmm
be a force in the book, right?
The
Or in
ripples.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Powerful, influential people, they don't have to be present to be an influence on what's going on in your decision making,
Yeah.
in your group's decision making kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I really dig that, and I dig the relationship and how that plays out when they do have some on-screen time together.
Hmm.
Uh, and so, how did they come to be then? How did Igor? You say he was going to be a throwaway, but how did he how did you flesh him out? Uh,
I feel like I would love to tell you, like, oh, I did vignettes, I did a sheet, I did a thing. No, Home Dude, that first scene. So you will meet him when Seema sees him again in the book. And the first scene where you see Degore, you should know every line I wrote in there, he just was coming fully into focus. Because again, when I first started that scene, I didn't think we were going to see him again. He wasn't that important. But then I was like, oh, this is why Seema is in the situation that she's in. Oh, and it just like layered. And so then I went back and I tweaked the scene just a little bit, but Degoria had already handled it. That voice in my head was so clear. Like every one of his interactions was exactly why it's like my characters already knew this was their history. And then as I was writing it, then they let me know. And I was like, oh, okay. And
Kind of
then
the sculpture method, right? You were,
yeah, I guess like it's already under the stone. I just have to like, I wait till the stone tells me, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. So he came into focus real fast. And then it was not as big a change as I think you're going to ask me about this. There was a huge change to the book as I was writing it. And Degore wasn't a huge change, but he did affect
Yeah,
several things
right.
throughout. Yeah.
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 So, and what about the fence?
Hi. Uh, she just kept showing up. Like I knew they needed to know a fence to get rid of the treasure and make their money. Um, but then I was like, well, she couldn't be a very good fence if she didn't realize something was going on. Like I've I've met pawnbrokers. I don't know that I've met a fence, but I've definitely met pawnbrokers.
Fences.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's totally different. And in like, in a city like New Orleans, the pawnbrokers are connected. I don't know who they're connected to. That's not my business.
Yeah,
But like there's always that sense of like they know what's going on. They can tell if this is actually grandma's ring or you happened upon it in the park or in somebody else's house. Like they can tell, like they've got that insight.
right.
And so I started thinking about like, what would Kai do with that? And like the crew has all these thoughts and rumors about her, right? Like there are legends of Kai the fence throughout their city, and they've worked with her for a long time. So they're like, oh yeah, totally, she's a spy. Oh, totally, she's been other places because people don't go other places. You're mostly just in Broadside. And so there are all these like secrets and things, and then I had to pause and be like, what is true about Kai? And she did not want me to know right away. Unlike Degore, who's like, here I am, you're welcome. Kai was like, you gotta earn it.
You gotta work for
Um,
it. Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's
yep,
cool because that again that fills in the character, and again that same aspect of there's layers to this history you're not going to be aware of because we're following teenagers,
yeah, they're
not
like
40
connected.
years old, or
Yeah,
well, some of them are teenagers.
yeah. Misha's still a teenager. I think the others are in their 20s ish.
Yeah. So
It's hard to tell.
we're following the young folks
Yeah,
and this is the previous generation of people that have been there and done that. And
Hmm.
you don't ever get the straight dope about them from them
Nope.
unless they've been drinking or otherwise really want to tell you how badly you screwed up.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Which sometimes you got to know. Yeah.
yeah. So I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed your crew and their problem solving style.
Hmm.
Were any of them based on people in your real life, or
I mean, no, not directly. Um, I
knowing
have
little brothers?
I was gonna say I have several little brothers. And so that energy for sure is from lived experience. I mean, I'm the oldest of seven. I have one sister. And then I have adopted other sisters and brothers throughout my life. So I've got the energy down. And that probably came in. But let me actually think about this before I answer, because I want to lie to you. I can tell you Kai was hugely influenced, not by any real life person, but by Kate Blanchett in that Oceans movie that she did. That whole attitude, that vibe, that's Kai. Um, but no, I think it's probably a mishmash, like little bits here and there. Like Melissa Oltoff absolutely can be a sunshine character who will cut you. So I'm sure her energy is somewhere in Eccles.
Right.
Um, Casey and I are both eldest daughters who are just cool. Yep, we can handle all this stuff. So I'm sure a little bit of that is in Terrio. Um, but there's no one for one, I don't think.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, in a similar vein, which
Yeah.
character from A Plague of Magic would you want to avoid like the plague, and why?
Like the plague. Um, there is a counselor. So Broadside is ruled by a council. And I would say the main counselor that you meet, I would like to never, ever, ever meet anyone like her in my real life ever. She is she is a mess, and she is terrifying because she does not know how much of a mess she is. She thinks she's just real good and real smart. Um, she's a problem. We're gonna have to handle her at some point.
Which says something about power, right?
I feel like a lot of things are said about power in this book. I don't know where any of that came from.
So, which character would you want as an ally then?
I mean Seema for sure. She's clever and fun. So I haven't talked about him yet. I think I would actually choose Harvin. It's a dangerous choice. But if your aims are aligned, Home Dude is not gonna stop until you have met those aims. So it might be an easy allyship, perhaps, as you can see in this book. But I think he would be a good ally overall.
No, an honest one,
Very clear. Yeah.
right? There's no question about where he's going with his things. Yeah.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
All
No.
right. Well, so A Plague of Magic, and this is a little bit more of a tighter question, I think, is it deals a lot with hopes and dreams and wanting to be rich and how that all folds down into something that's a lot less grandiose and a lot more important to my mind.
Yeah.
Is this rooted in a personal experience or something you wanted to explore a bit, or both, or
Hmm. I mean, I identify real strongly with that meme that goes around on Instagram, or real, I guess, of like, I'd really like the next problem that I have to learn through is to be really rich. Like, let me learn. Let me take on that problem and really learn through it. So I've never been rich.
yeah,
So I can't tell you. But I would say like when you grow up without a lot, the dream is always to have so much you never have to worry again, right? Maybe not always, but it was mine. Um, and it was very much like money would solve all my problems. Like maybe it's not the root of all happiness, but it would solve all of my problems right now. So why don't I have it? And these thieves who have been hovering on the edge of awful everything of desperation their whole lives, and sometimes not hovering, sometimes all the way in it. I mean, what is more seductive than wealth and comfort? Um, but then they realize, well, we had each other. Um, and that is a real hard thing to realize potentially after the fact. So, and that is something, right? Like you're rich if you have a roof over your head and you can eat, you can wash your clothes, you can take care of your things, and you are loved and surrounded by people who love you. you really are rich. Maybe more money could solve more problems, but like what a blessing that is.
Yeah, solve the right now problems. They aren't going to solve the real problems
Right, right. Yeah. So,
that nobody loves me kind of problems.
oh, yeah, which is a look at the world. It is a problem.
So, so rooted, I guess, a little bit in personal experience, but also take it to the extreme because we wanted to explore it.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So, is there anything you'd want us to know about A Plague of Magic that we haven't talked about already?
Two things, maybe three. Let's see what happens. So one, there are two point of view characters. Seema is the main character, no question. The second point of view character is very important, and still a protagonist. So Harvin, who I did not mention at the beginning, much like Harvin was not a point of view character at the beginning of the book. And in fact, not until I was halfway through. So I was halfway through the book and I realized Seema's not going to see all the stuff I need the reader to see, and that I need to see. Who would be that person? And it was Harvin. And so Harvin went from being vague ally antagonist to the other half of the book. He is a hugely important, pivotal character, that if we are not seeing through his eyes, I don't think Seema's journey hits as much. I don't think you understand as much. Right?
No,
Good. I'm glad you agree.
I do.
So Harvin also made me a little nervous. So I almost always write female protagonists because I am a girl. And while I love an awesome male protagonist, I feel more secure, I guess.
Mhm.
So I've written a lot of men. You're welcome. And I do my best to ensure, because what I hate more than anything, friends, is when the female character is either useless or she's only useful because the men around her are stupid. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. So if your primary character is only good at what she does because everyone around her is trash, then she's not that good. And so it was really important to me to
Realistic.
right, so realistic. But it was really important to me that Harvin was not only a character in his own right, but he was convincing as a man, and not just like, oh, a girl wrote this, but like he's a man. That is who he is in his character. And he's also he has a very specific role to play, according to the Council of Broadside. And so I was real nervous. And that was the first question I asked Griffin as my editor. I was like, does Harvin work? Because if not, I have to take whatever time to fix. And folks,
And he's also law enforcement. So
that's it. That's it. Yeah. Like it was real important to me. And so the sigh of relief that came from my toes when Griffin said that he worked, it was very important. So you all should know about Harvin. He attempts to kill Seema the first time they meet. That's not a spoiler. I feel like you can see it coming. He actively wants her dead. And by the end, I would say they are enemies to colleagues.
for sure. And there's some additional stuff about that from the law enforcement end that I really enjoyed is there's along the way they're trying to find out what the hell's going on and where things went.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is a questioning of a source scene that is just brilliant. I laughed. I was like, that's really how it is. So, or can be in any case.
Yeah,
So
sure.
a lot of fun there. So you really did knock it out of the park on the not just the man angle, but also the let's go talk to people like we're law enforcement kind of thing. So
Shake some trees.
yeah,
Nice.
that was fun.
Yeah.
So you said there were three things.
Oh,
So
I did. I don't even know how many things I said, but there's so many things.
mathing,
Mathing doesn't math. The other thing you should know about A Plague of Magic is a little bit about how magic works. So I will let you read the book, please read it, and see what you think. But in essence, the reason the Council of Broadside is able to outlaw magic is because it takes magic to spark magic. So if you have been able to stamp out anything magical, no one is going to suddenly develop magical talents. Like you are safe. And because magic ended the world, allegedly 400 years ago, it's a really good reason to not have magic. Um, except magic is a foundational force of the universe in this world. And good luck outlawing gravity or the Mississippi River. Like you're not, those aren't things you can control. And so the third thing related to that
Or you can
is
control, but only in certain ways.
that
Maybe
this is
you can
very
channel it. You can't
that,
necessarily.
yeah, maybe you can. This is very much a book about various levels of control and power and what people think they are capable of versus what they might actually be capable of in ways positive and negative. And there's a lot of snark and there is a lot of
Yes, there is.
right, yes.
Imagine
Like imagine that.
that.
And there's a lot of
Marisa has no gift of dialogue or gab in person, not at all.
my favorite.
Yeah.
It is my favorite. But and I promise you, the book ends in hope. I don't know why I'm echoing. I promise you, it ends on a hopeful note. You will not close the book and be like, everything is terrible and I want to die. Um, again, I make no promises about the middle. Okay.
All right. So, and I suspect I know the answer to this or part of the answer to this, but
Mm.
our penultimate question tonight, what aside from its considerable raw entertainment value, do you hope readers will carry with them long after reading A Plague of Magic?
Oh, I hope you love the characters. That's always my goal in any book. I love them very much, even maybe especially the assholes. Um, I want you to love them. I would say this is not a teaching book. I'm not trying to teach you a lesson or make you think differently about the world, but I have a lot of thoughts about power and control, and I feel like you will see those in this book. Not necessarily all things I agree with, because the characters do what they want. Um, but I always hope people are thinking about power and control because it affects our lives all the time. And it doesn't mean you have to go, in case of a magical cataclysm, how would I look at the council? Like not like that. But I don't know. I hope you close it and you go, I kind of want to see these guys again and I want to
That's,
see more.
I mean, that's the line, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing more dangerous than a little bit of power.
Little bit of power,
Like,
except maybe a lot of it.
well, a little bit of power to making changes in your life and how
Yeah.
you treat other people, that kind of thing. Certainly,
Yeah.
it's something that came up during promotionals in the police department.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, how interesting. What an interesting real world.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Those are sad.
that's so strange. Yeah,
Maybe it resonated for me because of that. I don't know.
could be. Could be.
So I'd never do that.
No, I wouldn't
And all of a
understand.
sudden, look, there's stripes on them, and they're doing that,
Now the things are happening. Yeah.
doing exactly what they said they wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's interesting.
I'm not bitter or upset. No, not at all.
No, none of us. None's amongst us.
So, what conventions can your fans hope to catch up with you at, and what other work do you have in the pipeline for us?
Mm. So this may be out before DragonCon?
It'll be
No?
out the week after, I think.
Okay. Well, I was just at DragonCon and I'm probably asleep right now while you're watching this. So
Covering your voice, right?
right. I will not have a voice post DragonCon. So DragonCon is my last con of this year. Although if you're in the New England area, please come over to my website, marisawolf.net or marisawolf.com. Go both ways. Because we are, Casey Azell and I, and sometimes with our awesome friend Trisha Woldridge, will be appearing at various bookstores and book festivals in the New England area, September, October, and November. So come check it out. Next year, I know for sure I'll be at LibertyCon, hopefully DragonCon again. Unclear where else. Maybe BosCon in Boston in February. TBD. And as for more books, funny you should ask. So this year, you can find my very first Honorverse story in Challenges, which comes out in November, brought to you by the fine mind of David Weber. You may have heard of him.
And a new original novella from him.
Yes, it's
Yeah. Yeah. I don't cry often, but I do occasionally when I'm reading something and whoa.
It's so good. It's so good,
Yeah.
obviously. And Tom Pope, who also helped to wrangle everybody and contributed. So a bunch of, or five, right? Five great stories in that one. Um, New to the Honorverse back in the early days of the Honorverse. That will be followed sometime by my very first Honorverse novel with the fabulous David Weber. We will be continuing the Crown of Slaves story line where I will do my best to make both David Weber and Eric Flint's memory proud. So, so that's coming. Hopefully book 2 of A Plague of Magic has a tentative title, but I'll save that for later. What else am I doing? I feel like I'm doing a lot. Oh, Nerfressa. I get to, there's going to be an anthology of short stories in the Norfressa. Bazel and Brandark and all your old friends will be coming back. So I get to work closely with David Weber and this other guy you might have heard of, Chuck Gannon, Dr. Charles Gannon. So I get to work with all these cool kids. Lots of science fiction and fantasy stories ahead. So
Very cool. I look forward to it. And Undercurrents will be out the week before. So it'll be out, Undercurrents will be out on Dragon Con, and then for Dragon Con.
no, Undercurrents is out now. It's already on the website.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's on now.
So right now you can go read it.
But the book will come out the week after, the Tuesday after Dragon Con. So or excuse me, the Bane Free Radio Hour will come.
So the book is out right now. Go get it.
The book will be out, yes.
Yeah.
Right now. So
right now.
All right, time sheeting and math.
That's why we don't do time math, Griffin.
Yep.
There are many reasons. This is
Griffin edition.
Yes. No time math. No time math.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the Bane Free Radio Hour today. We very much appreciate whatever day it actually ends up being.
We don't know. Welcome to the future.
Might be the
friends.
night. You might be
We don't know. Whenever you're watching this, thanks for joining us.
Yes. As always, it's a pleasure, Marisa, and I really hope that everybody enjoys A Plague of Magic. It's an excellent book and a whole lot of fun, featuring tiny dragons and hordes of magical treasure. Wait, was that there? There we go. Was that the tiny dragon?
This is a tiny angry dragon. Yeah. I have, I don't know, more than 15 dragons in reach. So this is who I am as a person. It was always just a matter of time before one was in a book.
Very cool. Once again, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me.
And now, as promised, one jump ahead. John Moore is a nanotech-enhanced soldier of fortune. Lobo is an AI, a living weapons and intelligence platform of enormous destructive potential. Two very dangerous wolves in a galaxy of deadly corporate and paramilitary predators. But Moore has grown weary of the killing, and just once he'd like to finish the job without leaving a trail of blood behind him. Not going to happen. Not on a pristine planet called Mackin, where two gigantic corporations vie for control of the local jump gate and access to the riches of an undeveloped world. Dealing with a kidnapping and extortion scheme is only the beginning for Moore and Lobo as they work to stay one jump ahead.
That doesn't make it any better, I said. The fact that it's the best plan I can come up with doesn't mean I have to like it. We could have simply landed on the building's pad, Lobo said, and you could have removed them all, as I suggested. I told you before, they would have attacked. I would have been forced to fight back to protect both of us, and I would have ended up killing a lot of them. I want to avoid killing whenever I can. So, you are buying me new weapon controls so I can kill for you. The problem with emotive programming is that you sometimes can't tell sarcasm from genuine confusion. No, I'm fixing your weapons systems because you're broken, incomplete without them. I thought about the course of my life and the types of jobs I always seemed to end up taking, and I realized there was no point in lying to Lobo or to myself. And so your weapons are ready when we find ourselves in situations where we have to fight. Lobo superimposed hatch lines on the displays, showing the two flashing yellow squidlets. They were drawing close. I get the point, I said. I climbed into the Stealthy and stretched out, a little bigger than a coffin on the inside. When closed, it afforded me only enough room to stretch out my legs or draw my knees to my chest, roll over, and prop myself on my elbows. I'd already loaded it with food and a few special supplies. Everything else I'd need was standard equipment. As soon as I close up, shove the dirt back over me and take off. Hit this area hard with thrusters to fuse the ground and head out to the pause point as fast as you can. You need to burn off all the squidlets. Thanks for the reminders, John. Perhaps I should remind you that I am not capable of forgetting the plan. Spending hours alone in the Stealthy was looking better. I'll contact you when I need pickup, I said. Before he could tell me he knew that too, I added, signing off, and pushed one button to close the Stealthy's hatch and another to bathe the tiny chamber in a soft blue-white light. Now came the hard part, waiting and hoping that both machines, Lobo and the Stealthy, succeeded at their jobs. The plan should work. As I lay inside it, the Stealthy was burrowing deeper into the earth, sucking dirt from beneath it and forcing that same dirt back over it, digging as quickly as it could now that I was aboard. It would not stop until it was over 2 meters down, coolant in its hull and tentacles, keeping it from generating any kind of noticeable heat signature. Layers of metal and deadening circuitry combined to give it equally inert radio and radar signatures. Orbital-based X-ray probes could penetrate 1 meter or at most 1.5 meters into the soil, so they wouldn't spot me either. Only a serious local X-ray sweep had a chance of finding me, and my bet was that the combination of Lobo's launch, the scorched ground it left, and the decoy distress signal he'd eventually send would be enough to convince Osterlad's team that I was still inside Lobo, stuck with him in deep orbit, stranded beyond the range of Osterlad's local ships. All I had to do was lie in this container, believe in the plan, and wait. Yeah, that was all. I forced myself to breathe deeply and slowly. I felt the vibrations of Lobo's takeoff and relaxed a little more. So far, so good. One of the Stealthy's displays estimated we were over 1 meter down and descending. Lobo's thrusters should have left the ground hot enough to more than cover any of the Stealthy's underground activity. Lobo should be able to beat Osterlad's ships to deep space, and then he would join me in waiting. I punched on an overhead timer to count down the 10 hours I figured I'd need to spend in the Stealthy. The depth meter showed almost 2 meters. We were nearly done descending. The Stealthy was working well. The air smelled fresh. I sucked a bit of water from the tube on the right wall near my head. It was cool and pure, just as it should be. I rolled to face the display on the opposite wall, which gave me access to a substantial library I'd chosen for the wait. But I couldn't relax enough to watch, read, or listen to anything. I called up the map and recon photos of Florden and zoomed in on the forest between the landing zone and Osterlad's mansion. I reviewed the setup yet again, then went over the plan one more time in my head. We were only 1 day into my window, early enough, I hoped, that Osterlad wouldn't wonder for another few days about when I would be coming. Everything was going well. I was doing well, too, I thought. Handling the weight easily, no difficulties. 10 hours would be no problem. I glanced at the countdown timer. 3 minutes had passed. 10 hours might be a little harder than I'd thought. I normally avoid drugs. For one thing, unless I remember to instruct them to do otherwise, my nanomachines treat any known drug as an attacker and consume it before it can take effect. I can be caught off guard, in which case the drugs will work. If I even consider making the nanomachines let the drugs do their jobs, however, I run into my other concern, the real issue. I don't like drugs. even though I'm arguably the most artificially enhanced person in the universe, crawling with genetically engineered, surgically enhanced, and medically rebuilt human bodies, deep down, I cling to the hick attitude of the once retarded boy who lugged hay on a fifth-rate Pinkle-Ponker Island almost 150 years ago. I ought to be able to do it all myself. Whatever it is. Whatever myself is. I've changed so many times, been broken and rebuilt in so many ways by so many different forces, that though I still seem to me to be me, I can't honestly say what bits are original working equipment, what bits new, and what bits broken, repaired, or replaced. I shook my head and turned onto my back. At this rate, if I wanted to be operational when the Stealthy surfaced, I needed to push aside that attitude, bow to the wisdom of the Stealthy's designers, and take its standard issue sedative/wake-up combo. I inhaled slowly, focused inward, and as I gently let out the breath, pressed the button for the drug cocktail. The Stealthy would wake me when the 10 hours were up, and we were near the surface. I felt a slight prick in my neck, and then I was out. Chapter 9. I awoke with a start, pinned down, disoriented and feeling trapped, until I realized the things gripping me were the Stealthy's massage units, working the kinks out of my arm and leg muscles. I felt better than when I'd gotten into the box. The Stealthy was proving to be worth everything I'd paid for it. The overhead timer showed a few seconds past 10 hours, and the depth meter said we had ascended to 30 centimeters below the surface. The survey camera was already peeking out of the ground, its wide-angle image clear on the display beside my head. I thumbed the swivel controls and took a slow look around. The night was clear and bright, with a light of Floridan's 3 small clustered moons and the glow of the stars shining through a sky as clear and unpolluted as unexplored space. The clearing was deserted. Time to move. I gave the Stealthy the okay to complete the ascent. A few minutes later, the top slid open and I climbed out. From the Stealthy's cargo compartments, I took a comm and sensor unit, a sniper's tranq rifle, a couple of gas rats, and a pulse pistol. I stuffed the rats in a pack with some food and water, set the open code on the Stealthy, and sent it back underground. If all went well and we had time, we'd come back for it later that night. If we couldn't, it would either wait for the day we could return or provide an awfully bad surprise for anyone else who tried to mess with it. As the Stealthy descended, I moved a few meters into the woods on the path to the house, stopped, ate 2 protein bars, drank a liter of water, and used the sensor unit to scan both the area and all the transmissions it could detect. Nothing with an IR signature larger than my lower leg showed anywhere in the few 100-meter range of the unit. I didn't catch any guard chatter, so with luck, Osterlad's security people had believed our earlier show. Lobo was transmitting clearly and strongly, my own voice coming at me with a distress message. From the particular recordings Lobo had chosen to play, I knew that he was safely beyond the range of Osterlad's ships, and that the people in the mansion, presumably led by Johns, had sent via courier through the jump gate a request for a long-range salvage ship. After stretching a bit and relieving myself, I set out for the house. The forest was young enough and the night bright enough that I was able to sustain a normal walking pace. We'd set my sensor unit to use Lobo's signal and the standard feed from the weather sat to track my position, so when it indicated I was within 10 meters of the outer edge of what should be the range of a good installation's ground sensor scans, I stopped. A slight breeze kept the night cool, but the air was moist and thick enough that a small layer of sweat coated my arms. Normally, the nanomachines in my system stay out of everything from sweat to refuse that leaves my body, but I focused my instructions that they do otherwise this time, then rubbed dirt on my sweat-covered lower arms. Slowly at first, and then increasingly faster, the nanomachines deconstructed the dirt and made more of themselves. Small, barely visible clouds formed above my now nearly clean arms. I made each cloud split and sent the resulting 4 smaller clouds to gather more material from the forest floor. A short while later, 4 vaguely man-shaped clouds hovered just above the ground near me, 2 on my left and 2 on my right. I had them increase their speed until they were emitting enough heat that my wrist sensor read them as alive. And then we all moved ahead. If Johns and the team staffing Osterlad's mansion were running IR scans, they would at least have to wonder which of the 5 men now approaching the building was the one they wanted. The forest ended about 30 meters from the mansion, the trees abruptly yielding to a dense, short, soft grass that glowed gray in the moon and starlight. I set the nanoclouds to continue moving until they touched the nearest wall, at which point they'd reconstitute as much of the dirt as possible, with the last operational nanomachines vanishing into the soil and disassembling themselves when they were far enough from me that they could no longer communicate easily with their counterparts in my body. I scanned the house through the scope on the tranq rifle and found 4 guards, 2 sitting on chairs on rooftop observation decks, and 2 leaning against the corners of the building that I could see. I assumed they'd have counterparts on the other side of the house, so I needed to move quickly to take out all 8 guards before any of them noticed they were under attack. I stretched out on the ground in a sniper's posture and sighted on each of the 2 lower guards, making sure I had a feel for how far to move the sight after the first shot. The sight was strong enough that at this distance I could tell that the guard to the rear should consider using skin treatments to deal with some nasty scars that appeared more real than fashion statement. I put a needle in his neck, aimed at the front one, and fired a needle into him. He sank to his knees a second later and then fell face forward onto the ground. I swung the sight back to the rear guard, and he was also down, stretched as if he'd tried to take a step and then fallen. The gun was a pleasure to use, the recoil minimal and the sound little louder than a light breeze through the trees. I repeated the process on the 2 upper guards, tranking first the rear one and then the front. The first fell almost immediately off his chair and over the edge of the roof. He hit the ground relatively flat on his back, the impact making a thump I was afraid the guards on the other side might hear. The second stayed conscious long enough to reach for the needle in his neck, then passed out and fell face first off the side of the house, the sound of his crash a barely audible crack in the night. The fall probably killed him, though I'd hoped everyone in the house would survive. I was too far into combat mode to experience more than a passing moment of regret. I still had work to do. The nano clouds were 2/3 of the way to the house. The night was still quiet, and no guards came running. Lobo's message hadn't changed to the recording we'd reserved as his way to tell me I was in imminent danger. All was well. I sprinted for the wall nearest to me and flattened myself against it as soon as I could. I breathed through my nose and strained to hear if anything had changed, but the world remained quiet. Staying close to the wall, I made for the back of the house, knelt at the rear wall, and advanced carefully toward the far corner. I sighted through the rifle as I prowled forward. When I was about 5 meters from the building's far edge, I swung out from it until I could see the guard around the corner. I squeezed off a shot, kept the sight on him long enough to verify he dropped, and raised it to check out the guard above. This one sat a bit forward of where his counterpart on the other side had been, but he went down just as quickly. He fell onto the roof, and though I couldn't hear the sound of the impact, I worried that one of the remaining outdoor pair or even someone inside might have heard the noise. I had a clear view down the side of the building, so rather than risk losing time by moving forward, I sighted on and quickly shot first the lower guard and then the upper. The upper fell off the building and landed on his back near the feet of the unconscious man below him. No one moved, and no alarm sounded. I abandoned the rifle and sprinted for the rear door. I'd considered picking the locks, but Lobo and I had agreed that, as good as I was, Osterlad's security systems were probably better. So instead, I planned to open a central section of the door. I grabbed some dirt, spit in it, gave the nanomachines instructions, and rubbed the damp soil on a portion of the door about half a meter above the floor and roughly 30 centimeters in diameter. In less than 2 minutes, the nanomachines had decomposed enough of the door to let me slide the gas rats through the still-growing opening. I set each rat gently on the floor, thumbed them active, and backed away. Each arm-sized canister sprouted 4 small mechanical legs and a pair of front-mounted sensors, then took off. The house was a decent-sized mansion, maybe 35 or 40 rooms spread across its 2 floors, but the rats were fast, and each carried enough colorless, odorless sleep gas to put an entire apartment complex to bed. I'd worked with this gas before, so the nanomachines wouldn't let it do more than tickle my nose and throat. I instructed the nanomachines to disassemble, then headed to the front corner of the house. I paused to check status, continuing to admire the night while avoiding looking at the guard who had fallen. Nothing new appeared on my sensor unit. Lobo's distress message droned on, though the bits of light oozing from the house's front fixtures polluted the evening a bit. I couldn't help but be struck yet again by the brilliance of the star display. I'd never been in this part of space before, so the vista was new, as full of magical potential and promise as the stars over Pinkelponker when I was a boy. I've never lost my love of the night. I gave the rats 15 minutes, more than enough time to work the interior of the place, drew the pulse pistol, and walked up to the front door. It was locked, but the pistol easily blasted away the frame around the lock. I went inside. True to form, the main office was clearly visible from the reception area. Men like Osterlad are never far from work. Its door was open. I approached the office from the side, listening and looking for trouble. But everything was as quiet as it should be. Inside the office, a circuit cube, Lobo's new weapons complex, sat in a plexi container on a conference table. Johns slumped over the desk. I took off my pack, put it on the table, and stuck the pistol inside. I added the plexi container, closed the pack, and turned to the door. John stood and shot me in the left hamstring. I went down hard, the pack still on the table, blood oozing from a hole the size of my thumb, and pain screaming through my system for a few seconds until the nanomachines cut it off. The fact that the blood was flowing gently and not spraying meant he hadn't hit an artery, and the ragged hole suggested he'd used a projectile. That was fine by me. The nanomachines could disassemble anything inside me. They were already working to seal the hole, so I rolled onto the wound to hide the activity from Johns, who was now standing over me. "Mr. Osterlad read you correctly," he said. "You are soft. No one's quite clear on how you dealt with those anti-corporate eco-terrorists on Mackin, but the word is that you let them live." He shook his head slowly. "Mr. Osterlad also said you'd be dumb enough to try to make the exchange. I should get a nice bonus for being the only one who realized that you'd try to steal it. Mr. Osterlad and I agreed that I should take inoculations against every major non-lethal chemical agent we carry, and if a chemical is in active use, we carry it." The hole in my leg was nearly sealed, but I stayed down. I had to get out without showing Johns the wound, because I didn't want to explain how it had healed so quickly.
This has been the Bane Free Radio Hour. Thanks for joining us at the heart of science fiction. On the next episode of the Bane Free Radio Hour, Jeremy Comieux interviews David F. Sharrod and Mark Finn, the editors of the amazing anthology Swords and Larceny. And of course, we bring you more of Mark Van Dame's John and Lobo novel, One Jump Ahead. Score by Ruth Judkowitz.